Warning. The following program contains disturbing material that might be inappropriate for younger listeners. Parental discretion is advised.
Bez Video Kingdom is brought to you by Sherman's Landscaping. Struggling to take care of your lawns? Sprinklers broken so your grass is nothing but dust? Well, no need to worry. Sherm's the answer. He'll take care of all of your gardening needs. His patented prep, cut, prune method will fix every ill of your yard. First, he preps the area. Then he cuts the grass. And then he goes ahead and prunes the necessary hedges. Yes, his PCP process will have your lawn looking primo. Sherman and his cousin P-Dog will make everything better so you can be sure all of your plants get wet, even in the hottest of temperatures. So if you really need help, turn to Sherman's Landscaping.
Oh my gosh, that's
I didn't know you were going with that.
nice.
That was fucking great.
That was great.
I can grab your favorite podcast. Let's start this thing. Woo!
Boom. Welcome to Bez Video Kingdom, everybody. This is training day. This is Nick. This was my pick. This is following up our wives edition, in which I won another draft.
Jesus Christ.
Which makes it 4. Makes me tied with
Who had
Brad.
10 seconds in before Nick talked about
I thought he was going to wait a little bit.
No, it ties me up with Brad and Nate, and it keeps Zach where he's been.
Safe distance.
Well, in case any of you all are wondering, we're all still married. None of us divorced. No divorce proceedings.
It was touchy there for
Post that,
though.
yeah.
It was touch and go for a minute.
Touch
there.
and go. Things smoothed out, but I don't know. It was rough.
I mean, is that because all the girls agreed that you were last?
I don't know how that plays though. Like that I'm the worst picker of hot dudes.
My favorite comment was Nate's wife saying that Nate didn't pick for her. He picked for his sister.
My sister's flapping her gums in my ear the whole time that I'm cooking dinner that night, and I just I couldn't get it out of my head.
I loved Brad's wife Melissa with the bingo board of a draft layout on
It was
her
really
piece
a
of
bingo
paper.
board of shame. Is what it was.
Nothing,
Which is on
nothing
brand.
crossed off.
Melissa was just it was just all hateful comments about all the bullshit.
You should have seen the look she was aiming at all of us.
Yep.
All right, so Nikki, you picked training day, and I want to say that Nick and I have been like workout partners now for how long? It was like 5-6 years now, off and on.
Yeah.
And so we've had a lot of training day conversations off and on over the years. And every time this comes up, I start to sort of offer some of my concerns about this movie. And I can just see Nick like gritting his teeth, like he's about to drop the barbell on my
You need a
face.
spot with that or what? You still need a spot?
So I'm excited about this one.
That's one problem I have with this movie. There's a scene where he's walking through the yard of the apartment building, and there's one guy that's like obviously kind of out of shape and like kind of overweight, and he's doing bench press, and there's another guy just like super attentively spotting him. And I just always think like, do those gangster guys spot each other like that? I doubt it. I bet you they'd be like, this guy's trying to get buff, like good fucking luck.
Safety first, bro.
I think that they know what they're doing. I think they're spotting. They're trying to get. I mean, you can't if you're trying to get stronger. You got to put that weight on. You need a spotter.
Got to push to failure, man. Those muscles don't grow themselves.
I have some great questions for our guests today about the buffness of criminals, because oh my god, these criminals were there was some serious androstenedione flying around in the LA projects around
Well,
that
when
time.
Terry Crews comes flying out of the left field in the back,
Dude.
like, I mean, I'm like, okay.
It's ripped.
The man's
jacked.
traps have their own zip code. I mean, that fucking wife beater he was wearing was doing some extra work with those fucking
He
traps.
makes Tom Hardy look like Urkel.
Dude,
He was the one clapping at the pigeons, I think, too, right? That was him.
Yeah.
It was just somebody's back. I don't know, but it was a fucking swole back. The traps, I don't know if that was Terry or not.
I don't know.
He's
He's
a
an Old
bald
Spice
head
guy,
on
though.
that guy, though.
All right.
But yeah, 2001 Training Day. This is one of my favorite movies. Released in 2001, directed by Antoine Fuqua, who also did Training Day. After that, he followed up with Tears of the Sun. Moved on to Brooklyn's Finest, which I have not seen. Feel like it's kind of held in high regard by some. He did The Equalizer, Equalizer 2. He did Southpaw with Gyllenhaal.
Ooh, okay.
Magnificent Seven. He's got some good ones. some stinkers. Like he's got The Olympus Has Fallen.
Was he end of watch?
He was not.
Olympus Has Fallen is a solid, like,
is it really?
popcorn action movie.
Okay, because it just looked like 2012 and
It's fun.
big. And
The third installment, not as good.
What's funny is nothing else out there that he did is Training Day, which I like, at the same time, but I also, it's been long enough, we're talking, it's 20 years since.
Was that his
Training
debut?
Day. Not quite.
He was a big music
It was
video guy,
close.
right? It wasn't he got his start in a lot of music videos? Is that was what he did?
I think so.
A lot back in the day. I think
That
that's what he
explains
did.
Training
the
Day was at the
plethora of musicians. In
Right
this
about
movie.
the start. That was definitely his first. Written by David Ayer. David Ayer did Fast and the Furious, wrote SWAT, wrote Harsh Times, wrote End of Watch.
That's where the end of watch came in. That's right.
Yeah. And then he wrote Fury, which is, I really dig that movie with Brad Pitt, the World War II movie. Stars Denzel Washington, Ethan Hawke, Scott Glenn, Eva Mendes, Snoop Dogg, Cliff Curtis, Tom Berenger, and Dr. Dre.
Don't forget Macy Gray.
I know Macy Gray.
Does Dr. Dre star in this movie? I don't think so.
We might talk about that a little bit.
We may have the same body back.
I got you. But guys, like I said, it's one of my favorite movies. And does it have flaws? I mean, I can't wait to hear what your guys, what you guys have to say, what our special guest has to say. I'm always entertained by it, and it's Denzel, right? For me, it's Denzel. It's one of my favorite parts that he's ever played. I love movies that take place in the scan of 24 hours or less. I love a good cop drama. The corruption, violence, good versus evil. You got Hawk versus Denzel. You're pretty confident that Hawk's not going to turn, so you feel like it's like a good versus evil, and is Hawk going to actually make it out of this thing alive? Action, and then the acting just like is the foundation of this thing, and it's it's Denzel holding this thing up. Without Denzel, without the possible Sam Jackson, who was up for this, who was one of the first choices, and I'll get into some of the other ones that were offered to that did not take it. But Antoine Fuqua came in big. He wanted to see Dog Day Afternoon. He wanted his actors to channel Dog Day Afternoon, French Connection. He wanted this to be a classic. I do think it was in a lot of ways, and it is in a lot of people's minds. And also just to see the dark underbelly of a city, whether it's San Francisco or New York or Chicago. I dig any time a movie kind of gets into that darker side of things. I think it makes for a great movie. And then you get the combination of everything I just said, and it's one of my favorite movies. So I can't wait to hear what you guys think about it. Bradley, what do you think, man?
Yeah, man, I totally agree with you. I love that 24 hours. And once you get to the end of the movie, it's one of those things that in my mind, I remember it because I hadn't watched it in a while. So I was like, oh yeah, it takes place in 24 hours. But then as I'm watching, I was like, oh yeah, all this stuff goes down in just that one single day. And it happens to be his first day riding with this new guy. And I mean, of course, it's called Training Day, so that fucking makes sense. But no, it's a great movie. It's gripping. Denzel, of course. I mean, just cannot take your eyes off of him.
He puts the movie on his back, right?
Oh, 100%, 100%. And there's a little bit of the grittiness I really like. I like when you have casting that really makes you kind of believe okay, these are some legit dudes, except for Dr. Dre. And pretty much enjoy the hell out of it. So I was glad to rewatch it. Had no problems getting through it. I think it's about the appropriate amount of time. Good movie.
I really dug it. Denzel's great. Like I said, he puts this movie on his back. I thought Ethan Hawke was kind of uneven in this. He's a little, just kind of a little weak for the part, I thought. And maybe that was the character written in the character, but I don't know. I didn't love him in it. I think he kind of grows as the day goes on. We'll talk about it later, but I've never smoked PCP. I have so many questions about PCP after watching this movie. It's just my main thing that I took away from this.
You don't like to get wet, dog?
No, exactly. I don't. I've never gotten wet, but I just I have lots of questions. I hope that our special guest can maybe answer some of my PCP questions. But so the movie takes a while to get me. I think the beginning is sort of weak, and we're talking the first 10, 15 minutes. the diner scene where he's reading his paper, and the beginning scene where Hawk's at home with his wife and all that. I mean, it's just real minor stuff, but it seems kind of dated to me. But after that,
you don't like the diner scene?
I don't love it. But
Shit's
after
awkward.
that, it really takes off for me, and I love it. After they go and shake down the college kids, from that point on, that this movie has me. And man, I watched the whole thing. I didn't even fall asleep. It was great. I loved it.
Did they get pulled over for listening to Papa Roach? Is that why they got pulled over?
I actually think that's in the code. You can actually pull someone over for that.
Denzel made him turn the music down, and he was like, "You guys are cutting your life into pieces. This is your last resort." But no, I thought the story was great. There's a lot of stuff that I really, really like about it. Some stuff that kills me about this movie. And the first time I saw it, I loved it. And when I watched it again now, maybe, I don't know, 20 years later, I really liked it. So it's a good one. And I'm curious to know what Nate has to say about it, because he's got a shit-eating grin on his face right now.
I mean, I really feel like this movie tears me up inside. Like I don't know how to, because it's not one of those where like I want to shit on it. There's things about it that I love. And
Hang on. So it tears you up inside like the disease that you had a couple weeks ago?
It tears me up inside like the time that I almost was on the pod, but I had to back out for reasons that are still unknown.
Continue.
There's no denying that Denzel is maybe at his best in this, and he's just unreal. Like, there's no scene that he's not 100% in. Ethan Hawke is a little uneven, although it's hard for me sometimes to figure out whether or not this is the writing. Like, he's forced to deal with a few scenes. Like, there's one scene, like the scene for me that like is the pinnacle of the problem for me in this movie is right after they have the shootout, right, in the hood, and in the jungle, and like they drive. I think they
shootout with
that was not
Macy
cool,
Gray.
man.
You mean Macy Gray? That
Right after
Macy Gray. Yes, I'm sorry,
yeah.
not in the jungle. Yeah, so they have the shootout, and like he goes, Ethan goes, "That was not cool, man." And I'm like, okay, but like, is that what you say at that point? Like, you've already been forced to smoke PCP and fucking like do all kinds of unethical shit, and it's like 9 a.m. So like, like, I guess it's not 9, he makes meet at 10. So it's like 11:30. And I'm like, is that really this is the point at which you're like, there's bullet holes in the back window and all you have to say right now is like, that's not cool, man. So like, to me, I actually paused at this time and I was like, this is almost parody at that point. Like, it's almost like a satire. Like, we're watching,
how many guys came out of the proverbial woodwork?
There were like 700 and only one of the 700 had a shirt on.
They were all look like they've been working out for 20 years straight.
So they came straight out of like
they were ready to. They had Macy Gray's
and
back,
and every one of them had guns on them, multiple guns. So anyway, so this was but on the other hand, like, if I look at this movie and if I give it a charitable interpretation, we'll get into this, but there are reasons why, like, I get it. I can suspend disbelief, but also, no matter how many complaints I might have about this movie, it's so fucking fun to watch.
Fun ride.
Right. And so, like, even if I'm like, well, this, there's lack of realism, there's lack of like, solid plot connection, none of those things take away the fact that I really still really, I'll watch this movie. I just finished it 20 minutes ago, and I would watch it and love it again tomorrow. I really did. 20 minutes. I have a problem with finishing movies. So anyway,
fresh.
I would say I loved it, and I have major problems with it. I don't know if that makes sense.
That's a cliffhanger. I love it. All right, so one last thing really quick, because Bradley, you started, right? All right, so a couple of quick notes before we keep going on some stuff. I figure this is the time to kind of, so like I was telling Zach,
lay it out.
Sam Jackson and Matt Damon were considered for Alonzo and Hoyt.
Oh, like
sir.
Matt Damon was going to be it was Sam Jackson was going to be this with the Denzel
Jackson
character, and Matt Damon was going to be Ethan Hawke.
Yes,
I'll watch that movie.
I'll watch it a lot more with Damon in that role
and Denzel,
swapping out Denzel.
Yeah.
Damon and Denzel is a better movie.
Whew.
That'd be some double D's, bro. I'd like that.
So Eminem turned down the role of Hoyt.
No shit.
To be in 8 Mile.
See, I wrote that down in my notes because I was like, could Eminem have pulled this off? And I'm like, I don't believe so.
No. Hard
to disagree.
Not the same way.
I just don't think he would have been believable as like a cop. I don't know. I think he would have come across really awkward.
This is not a good movie if he plays Ethan Hawke's part, and Ethan Hawke's not even great in it.
I hard disagree with that.
You think Eminem could kill this?
I'm all in on Eminem on anything he does. 100%.
Then why hasn't he done anything?
I'm just all in on him. I don't know. I'm waiting.
After he played himself.
He cashed in early on the Eminem.
I got
20 years ago.
I bought Eminem stock early, and I'm holding it.
All in on
It's
Eminem.
95.
Not on his music career.
No,
on his movie
no.
career.
I bought the Eminem acting stock. The less pot. This was the bargain basement stock.
It's a little down. It's a
Like,
little
Eminem,
down.
we're going to put you in a movie, and you're going to basically just play yourself.
Yeah, and he was like, "All right, I'm going to kill this," and he did. And then they're like,
He's
"We're
like,
never going to have you do
Denzel?
anything again."
Denzel or play myself. The crew kind of found themselves in a little standoff between some Bloods and Crips, evidently. Nothing really happened, but based on where they were filming, things never got completely out of control, but they did find themselves in some kind of tense situations. So watching this for the first time and knowing that I was going to be able to dive deep in this movie finally, after watching it so many times, they show the license plate in the beginning, Alonzo's license plate, a couple different times, to the point where you're like, what does ORP-967 mean? So looking it up, they're actually they're recognizing Officer Rafael Perez, a real LAPD officer who specialized in drug and gang activity, but he became famous because of what was called the Rampart scandal, which, you know, I guess evidently he was famous for stealing drugs and then framing suspected criminals. So I wonder if it was kind of loosely based on, if Alonzo was based on him. So figured it'd be a little bit, you know, more than that, but it must, you know, it's an LA thing, and maybe that's where Fuqua maybe came up with part of Alonzo's character.
I just feel like we need to acknowledge for the listeners that the explosions in the background are because in the Bev's outdoor studio, we're about a mile away from the series Modesto Sikh temple, and I believe today is Diwali.
The last day of Diwali.
It's the last day of Diwali.
Diwali started last evening, and then now it ends.
Is Diwali a 24-hour period?
It's like a sundown
It's like training
one day to the next day.
It's on brand then.
Yeah, that's
It's a
why we picked
24-hour
tonight.
holiday, and we got it. Okay.
I know everything I know about is from Kelly from The Office.
The Diwali episode of The Office is one of the most awkward episodes.
It's so awesome.
Oh, it's so good. Anyway, so just don't mind those are fireworks from the Sikh temple, and they're awesome. So I wish you were here. All right.
So now we are ready to, this is our Drinking with the Director portion. Antoine Fuqua is going to join us, but he's going to help us welcome our special guest, longtime friends with Brad and Nate. Lieutenant Dan is joining us tonight. Thanks
a
for
real
joining.
life policeman.
A real life policeman.
Yeah, thanks guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
Lieutenant Dan. So just to be clear, this is not the eventually legless member of the Forrest Gump
I've seen
cast.
his legs.
He has legs. Although, funny enough, one of Lieutenant Dan's. So Dan and Brad and I have been friends since we were. How long, Dan? Did you go to Little Folks?
I don't know if I went to Little Folks, but it's at least first grade.
So at least kindergarten, first grade, Brad and Dan and I have been friends. And one of the distinguishing features of Dan's childhood and up through his early professional career was that he got hurt an absurd amount of times.
But
Never lost his legs.
let's say hurt, but I mean he was injured. I don't think he was ever really hurt because he's indestructible. But he would get injured and be in a lot of pain, but it wouldn't like bother him. He would still be functioning.
So my number one favorite Lieutenant Dan story was we were about maybe sophomores, you think?
I know what this one is.
Sophomore in high school.
The Black Widow?
Yeah. So Dan, out behind Dan's house, there was an old shed, that was pretty in some disrepair. And where we live,
It's terrible.
Any outbuilding has Black Widows. Well, we all, knew that we roughly avoided them, not Dan. So Dan would go out and he would mess with these Black Widows. So at some point prior to the day in question, Dan had gone out and gotten bitten by a Black Widow because he was playing with them. He wanted to mess with them. And so he goes in, he got this Black Widow bite, and his mom takes him to the emergency room. They get the anti-venom or whatever, and life's okay. So then, he does it again, and she takes him to the emergency room again, and she's pretty pissed. And So, he gets the antivism, and she says, you do this again, and like you're in tons of trouble, and I'm not taking your insurance. So so we're in high school. We're sitting there at break about 9:15, and Dan shows up. Oh no, this is before we're before school, and he shows up, and he's like holding his hand kind of awkward, and we're like, "What's up, dude?" And Dan's like, I got bit by a black widow again. We're like, what do you mean again? So he tells us the story, and we're like, Dan, you got to go to the fucking office and get this thing. He's like, no, man, my mom's going to kill me. So he doesn't go, and 2 periods later, we show up at break in the cafeteria again, and Dan's got a hand the size of a softball. And he's sitting there.
He's like, it's fine. It's fine, guys.
It's fine. No joke. I mean, I swear to God, it looked like he'd stitched a softball into his hand. So you finally went, right?
No, I didn't. I do remember. I remember the thing. It didn't even hurt. I remember the thing that I was most worried about is I swore I thought the skin's going to split open any second here. Like it was
hot.
big.
Did it feel hot?
It was hotter than
Oh
hell.
my God.
But it got so swollen, like you couldn't even push on it anymore. You know, it's like the skin is at its limit of how much it's going to swell. And I think that was only a second. I've only been bit twice. So don't make this crazy. I've only been bit twice.
Maybe she threatened you. The story's funnier if you did it 3 times, but maybe she threatened you the first time.
I mean, lieutenant in a police lieutenant is like a pretty alpha position, but is there anything more alpha than just like I just play with black widows?
Dan's a pretty. I would say when I look up alpha, when I tell people what an alpha is, I just describe lieutenant.
Exactly.
So Brad, would you say that you always thought Dan might end up being a cop?
I think yes, and actually, the more than that, it was. I think he's going to be a good cop. It wasn't the idea of like, oh, there's a lot of dudes that just want to be cops and stuff. But I was like, his sense of justice and his sense of right and wrong are going to make him a great cop, and that's what I actually was like. I think that's going to happen.
So Dan is a fairly so your lieutenant is correct, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So in his department, I believe that's the 3rd in command. Although he's sort of very quick, he's very quickly rising, so he'll eventually be a chief. So Dan's been along, and one of the things that did I say this earlier already that I want to be a cop?
No, you haven't said it yet.
Okay.
Can you please tell us about your fantasy about wanting to be a cop? Because I'm just so interested.
I have a weird like I want to be in another world, another universe. I think I'm a cop. And I love the idea like that I would be a cop.
Like a cop teacher, like someone that teaches cops how to be cops?
No, like a real cop. Like I imagine myself as like first a beat cop, and then I work my way up, and I'm like a detective, and I have this whole like movie cop career,
like the Shield guy.
Yeah. So
I have to jump in on this, Nate. Nate's been on several ride-alongs with me, and he loves them.
Several is being generous. I think I do it for my birthday every year and for Christmas for myself every year.
And Nate probably doesn't even know this, but at my department, he's fairly well known because when he shows up, he's not like a normal ride-along that sits in the back and is quiet. He asks every single cop, so what are you doing? How you do this? How'd you know this? I'm half convinced Nate thinks he's half deputized as a police officer.
He's been there enough times. He told us that you basically said he was a cop.
He thinks, I think in his head a little bit, he thinks, like, I think I'm sworn, right? Like, I can carry a gun now. I can carry a gun. I can wear a vest.
When I'm on a ride along, I mean, I feel like I've trained enough now that if shit goes down, I know where the shotgun is. I'm just saying. I'm here for you.
And we all know Nate really well. He's just giddy in the car the entire time. He's just giddy. Like, where are we going now? Where are we going now? What are we doing? He's just moving around. It's like, dude, right now we're doing nothing. We're just
Oh my God, that's amazing.
And I described this to my wife too, and I told her, like, Dan he'll get what's the code when you have to go really fast?
Nate's favorite code.
All right, you know what? You just got revoked for that.
Is it a code 90 or something?
Code 3.
Code 3. So when you get
close.
When you get a code 3, it's when you get to go really fast with the sirens on and you don't have to stop at the red lights. And I hold on to my seat and I just go like I have this grin, and it's not put on, man. I can't swipe it off my face. I'm like, this is the coolest shit I've ever done. Oh my God, we're going so bad. I'm telling you, man, I don't know what it is, but I love it. So yeah, so I take advantage of Dan. Dan now is so high up that literally the only time he ever goes out in uniform is when I come. I'm like, hey Dan, we need to go for all right, fine. I'll show. He's like an interim director somewhere else. He doesn't even like work at the department half the time now. But he's like, all right, I'll show up if you want to do it.
Dude, that's I
amazing.
want to do it now. Like that makes me want to do it bad.
It's so interesting and so fun. And I will say, to corroborate what Brad said, I've told lots of people this. Dan's a great cop. He's a, there's tons of issues, right, with cops, and obviously there are some cops that are bad. There are some, some training situations that there's lots of reform going on, and there's lots of questions. And my take on this is obviously that there's all different kinds of cops, and that often cops get kind of shit on, for things that aren't the specific cop's fault. But Dan's a great cop, and a cop that sort of thinks a lot about why he does the things he does in the job. And so I'm super curious on training day, because there's a lot of questions I have about, whether or not this stuff would happen and how this would really occur. And so I'm excited to have him on. So thanks for coming on, Dan.
Yeah, of course.
I want to hear Dan's thoughts on. Oh wait, what are we drinking tonight?
Oh yeah, what are we drinking with Dan?
I'm drinking. I'll just start really quick. I'm drinking the Hazy Baby once again tonight. So I'm not
Blaker Brewing.
Blaker Brewing from out of Sirius, California. Thank you, Blaker, for the Hazy Baby. Love it.
I got our newest sponsor over here, the Karate in the Garage, the Double Hazy IPA. It's like 22% or some shit. I don't know. My my hat is floating off of my head right now after one glass.
That's Last Call.
Last Call Brewing, our newest sponsor.
Why is it our newest sponsor, Brad?
Yeah, because we had Walter Ramirez on our podcast for Strange Brew when we did our drinking draft, and we were told that we are going to get to make a BVK IPA. We're going to have a brew day with Last Call Brewing. And of course, since we did promise, whoever is the one that wants to jump in and make a beer with us, they're going to be our advertisers for Drinking with the Director. So it is Drinking with the Director, sponsored by Last Call Brewing. And I'm actually drinking some. We're recording this on a Thursday, and it is called Don't Stop the Rock. It was a actual collaboration they did with one of their food trucks, which is the Rock Pizza. So they made a West Coast IPA that is very solid. So Don't Stop the Rock, newly canned, available at the Last Call Brewing tap room in Oakdale, California.
What flavored Diet Coke you got going there, Nate?
Grenadine flavored.
Or I'm sorry, Diet Pepsi.
So I almost went full rage today at Save Mart because I went shopping, and on my list, one of the two items I couldn't find was grenadine, and I was like, what the fuck's wrong with you guys?
How am I supposed to make a fucking Roy Rogers?
Is this a store?
Do you even grocer? So anyway, I don't have any grenadine, but I do have some sort of bourbon in it. I forget what I dumped in here earlier. So who knows? Bourbon and diet.
What are you drinking over there, Lieutenant?
So this is Last Call. I actually called Brad beforehand and said, "Hey, sounds like you're drinking good shit every time."
Brad's got good
And he
taste.
brought me this Simple Chaos. Is that what this is?
That's what it is, Simple Chaos.
Yeah, it was great. So I haven't had Last Call, actually, and it's really, really good. Oakdale, right? You said?
Oakdale, yeah.
Yes,
Everybody
sir.
head out to Last Call Brewing in Oakdale. They got all sorts of events going on the weekends. Good times. Go say what's up to Walter and tell him you're waiting for that BVK IPA.
Oh yeah.
All right, so really quick, I know everyone's got questions. I'm just going to open up really quick, Lieutenant Dan, with your thoughts about training day? Let's break this thing wide open.
All right. I could go on probably for 2 hours on this. So
Sounds
it's
about
actually
right.
kind of interesting because when Nate called me and said, "Hey, we'd like you to be a guest. We're watching this movie Training Day." And I was super pumped because I remember seeing this movie 20 years ago and I thought, "Oh, that's a fucking great one. That's an awesome cop movie. I love it. Perfect." I watched it, I think 2 days ago, maybe yesterday. I finished it off. Oh my God. No, here's the thing. The three of you really loved it, and Nate was kind of on the fence. And you know what? That's because Nate's a half deputy, so he knew.
Deputized.
But I just had a lot of problems with it. Now, there was one thing Zach kind of fired off with where he didn't like and you liked the opening 15 minutes. I loved the opening 15 minutes. I thought there was very clearly in this movie, they had some, I don't know what you'd call them, but they had some cops that were working as experts and kind of advising him of the situation, right? When he woke up in the morning and he said what he did to his family, I thought that was so great because that is very much for when officers are in those specialty teams where they have that sense of excitement. They know they're going to do a search warrant or something today. They know like, hey, there's some danger involved, but this is going to be amazing. So it's that really weird sense of excitement with a little bit of fear, and you're telling your family goodbye. And they tried to capture that in that first 5 minutes. I thought it was awesome. They go to the diner. Again, I thought that was awesome. That's the old crusty senior cop treating the new cop like shit, which is extremely common.
Is that how it goes? Do they haze guys like that?
Haze them bad.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for it, whether you agree with it or not. I tend to not agree with it too much, but some positions, especially in these vice positions, it is understandable why it happens. You have to make sure you have guys. The idea is this: when you have a new officer, you're trying to put them through as much stress as you possibly can to see if they can survive through the stress, because the stress they're going to experience through the career is going to be extreme. So are they going to break? And if they're going to break, we don't want to waste a lot of time on them. They just need to break and move on, and we get a new officer. So I thought that was really good. Then they get in the car, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Then they hit the hydraulics, and I'm like, oh, shit.
And they lost me.
And then just from there, I just was kind of like, all right. And I think it was you, Nate, said it's at one point this just became a parody. And where it became a parody for me, but this is also, I'm going to go back on this in a second. So, okay, I'm trying to accept it all while we're going through it. They get in a hellacious gunfight, with all these guys, and they just drive off. And I'm like, all right, I'm just going to try to accept it. And here's one thing that I did catch on when I was watching it is this is Rampart. And you caught that. And this is Rampart we can talk about. It's a very famous incident that, law enforcement's extremely ashamed of that was...
so you had heard of that before?
Oh, Rampart's very famous.
I've never heard of that. Okay.
I think there was like 70 officers total that were captured in the Rampart incident. 3 or 4 that were major, but there was bank robberies involved. There was homicides involved. They were stealing drugs out of evidence room. Very bad incident. But anyway, I thought this is tailored around that, but in a 24-hour period as opposed to several years.
Interesting.
So anyway, they get in the shooting, and I thought, okay, that would never happen. The one that really where I was like, I'm done. I don't know if I can finish, is when they go and they get in the shooting with the retired officer, Roger, his name was, and steal his money. They shoot him, kill him. And then 2 hours later, they're just back at work, and they're going to the gangbanger's house. And it's like, they just shot and killed an off-duty. Did they just come out and go, all right, we're all good.
That's my main.
This happened, it's a good shoot. Rook shot him.
Early investigation says it's a good shoot. Get back to it.
Rook came in spraying.
My
they
main
didn't
question
notice?
is, he's just standing there, and I'm like, wouldn't he get drug tested? Isn't there some paperwork that needs to get filled out at this point?
He talks about, I mean, there's a couple things he explains there. One, he says that if you don't agree that you're the one that shot him, he's like, if you want your blood test to not get to the lab, you need to agree with us. So he kind of basically says that
Which is completely ridiculous.
I'm okay with the blood test. Okay, maybe they could get away with not getting him blood tested. That does happen. Some agencies, because the unions are strong and they fight it for whatever reason. Okay, fine, whatever. You don't think anybody noticed that his car had bullet holes in the window?
He's just parked across the street.
Not only the fact that, I mean, this is in the city, it's in LA, so there's going to be a ton of neighbors. People are going to notice, like, hey, they kicked in the door an hour before because they dug out the safe.
Right.
But then we heard a shotgun an hour after they'd been in the house. That was weird,
Denzel smoked 14 cigarettes before they actually...
So there was just... The other thing is, when you named off the movies that director had made, some of those are some of my favorite movies. I love Tears of the Sun. Some of those are excellent movies. Mm-hmm. I feel like they had an excellent idea, and then when they tried to put it together, they're like, guys, let's just do the best we can and hope nobody notices all these things that don't fit. And sure enough, I think when he made it, he's like, man, these sons of bitches, nobody even noticed all this shit.
No cops went and saw this movie. This is fucking perfect.
And here's where my biggest problem with the movie is. I think this happened in 2001. And I think this movie took itself very, very seriously instead of being a parody. And I think people watch it and go, see, that shit happens. That's the kind of stuff that happens. And it kind of has evolved into some of the problems we have today. You know what I mean? Now, I say that when some of this kind of has happened. Rampart has happened. But Rampart was very different. They were also taken down by law enforcement, not by any other, means. But that was probably one of my...
So the Russian mob did not...
No, the Russian mob didn't come in at the end and kill him. That was probably one of my bigger problems, which I don't fault them for now, because who knows that when you're making the movie? But I think that is a big problem. And people go to the movies, they watch it, and they're like, yeah, I know it's a movie, but still, that stuff's kind of real. and it's just not.
Denzel was really good in that. That's how it happens.
So I got a few questions.
Denzel was excellent in it. I will agree with that.
I got a few quick questions, mostly for Lieutenant Dan, one for Nick here. So just give me your sort of like quick reaction here. So he says, don't you want to get your own division? He says, someday I want to get my own division. This is early. This is one of the scenes you liked. He says you should see the houses that those guys have. I mean, are you really making a shit ton of money if you're what does it mean to be a division leader?
Division chief or
division
something?
chief in LA?
Now, here's the other thing about LAPD, and I'm not an expert on LAPD, but LAPD has a very, how do I describe this? Their legacy of being an LAPD officer is very high, right? You're part of LAPD. That means a lot. Everybody around them actually pays quite a bit more. But the reason they recruit and the reason they're able to get officers is because people want to say, I'm LAPD, which means a lot. I mean, now LAPD is huge. There's 10,000 officers in LAPD alone.
Wow.
But no, I mean, there's some famous movies that are Lethal Weapon, for example. I remember when I watched it as a kid, I was like, I want to be a cop, and if I get a sergeant, I get that guy's house. Do you remember that guy's house in Lethal Weapon?
Yeah. It's like a mansion.
He lived in a mansion. No, doesn't happen. They do fine, but no, especially in that area, they're not buying that kind of thing.
And how hard? So the other, like the big argument of this whole thing is like, you'll make detective. Like, how hard is it really that hard to make detective? Do you really have to smoke PCP to make detective?
You don't have to smoke PCP, but being detective, making detective. So I have done that before as well.
PCP.
And not PCP, but detectives. And detectives can be difficult.
You mean to become
into detectives. So you have to figure, at a normal agency, say of 100 officers, they're probably only going to have 5 to 6 detectives. So to get, and they're probably only going to have a handful, maybe 2 or 3 of homicide detectives, and everybody wants to be homicide. It's very difficult to get into that.
So that is a deal. Like if you really wanted that, like some people at this table, you might really do some extreme shit. Some really like toe the line a little to try to.
That is a
detective.
I don't know. It's not a career changer, but it is a career staple. So for me, for example, I'm not as proud of the rank I'm at now as much as the fact that I was in detectives. Like that was for me personally, like that was one of the best parts of my life and one of the worst. It was very high stress, but a lot of reward at the same time. It's one of those, pinnacles of your career type thing. You don't want to do it forever, but it's very rewarding when you're in it.
Is it high stress because there's a lot of pressure put on you by people above you or like the media or the community, or is it on yourself?
No, it's high stress on yourself. So as you can imagine, this is how it is, especially if you get into homicide. And you're not aware of it until you really get into it. But there is only one person on the planet, if somebody dies, that's going to find justice for that dead person. And that's that homicide cop.
Really?
And so if somebody gets killed at this table, whoever's assigned to investigate that case, if you mess up a little bit, there's no justice for that individual. It never goes anywhere, And so sometimes there's a line they use in there. There was so many things in that movie where it was very clear that they had some ex-cops. It's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
Right.
He says that several times. That's a very common saying in law enforcement. You can solve a murder in your head and know exactly who did it. It doesn't matter what you know, it's what you can prove. There was another thing that I'd like to touch on real quick, just where I was like, man, they had some experts on this. At one point when they served the fake search warrant on, what's her name?
Macy Gray.
Macy Gray. So they throw her down. Denzel says, I'm going to search a house. You clear her. If you notice, you won't even catch it unless probably you're in law enforcement. He handcuffs her and he turns and starts to search the couch. And what he's going to do, that's every cop would do that, but nobody else would catch that. What he's going to do is he knows he's going to pick her up and put her on the couch, but one of the most common spots they hide weapons is in the couch cushion. So he's searching the couch to make sure there's no weapons in the cushions.
Oh, wow.
Never noticed that.
So somebody told him this is what you will do. Because he turned immediately, and it was only for a second, and he started ripping off the cushions. And that's what he was doing is somebody had told him. And I thought that's they clearly had somebody every scene. The director really tried to make this a serious movie. And I think for me, that's why it failed, because it eventually became apparent.
You're like, if they're going to take the time to do this, then how are you going to let all this other shit go? Was there any other moments that stood out to you, though, like that? Like, I'm just curious, because that
were like, where this seems genuine type thing?
Yeah.
No.
Is that like the main one?
See, I almost compare it to something like Any Given Sunday, where it's like it was a movie that they do a lot of things that are really like interesting as far as realism with
I hear
football
you.
and things like that. But it's also this super like grandiose,
It's the
like
Hollywood version,
hyper
right?
version
Yeah.
of what a football pro football would look like.
Oliver Stone's view of what football
and so
is.
I mean, I think that's kind of the thing that's going on here is that it's trying to be realistic and get some of those details right, but at the same time, it's also this hyper Hollywoodized type of cop movie. So
Nikki, that's a great transition because my next question is for Nikki, college football quarterback and high school football coach. Is Ethan Hawke really a strong safety? I mean, are we buying that?
high school, you could
At North Hollywood High, baby.
North Hollywood High.
North Hollywood high school.
He lowers his shoulder and puts a fucking.
What I
mean
love
hit
is
on
that
somebody.
like Denzel takes a second look at him like,
I don't
do I
know.
want to fuck with this guy?
Yeah.
Strong safety.
And he does fight kind of like he fights above
He's
his.
he's
scrappy,
scrappy,
dude.
yeah.
Like,
He's-
he's not.
he's
Yeah, he
hard-nosed.
can take a hit.
Oh, that's a question I have, Lieutenant. So when he says that he put him in an illegal chokehold, are there moves that you're not allowed to do on
Yeah.
really?
So that chokehold actually is one of them. Now, up until very recently, we could use that chokehold. It's called a carotid, I think, if I remember it correctly there. So the carotid was pretty highly used by everybody. I could show you later. I'll put you in it. You're out in a second.
Yeah. I've been wanting to pass out.
duty.
it's essentially a rear naked
Off
choke in
duty.
MMA, right?
That would be
Yeah,
amazing.
no,
pod.
carotid is you're blocking the two carotid arteries, and you're out literally in a second or two. It works great. The problem is, 1 in a million, somebody messes up and the guy dies, and then that gets then they say you can't use that anymore.
Yeah.
So pretty much, there's very few agencies that are still using that. LAPD at the time of this movie probably had already made it where you can't use it. The most famous for this one is I don't remember his name, but it was in New York. That
Eric
officer,
Garner.
Eric Garner.
Yeah.
It was a loud maneuver at that time. So the officer jumped on Garner's back, did the carotid. Garner passed away later. I don't remember if he died from the carotid. I don't think he did. You can't die from the carotid, as I understand it. I'm not a doctor. Itself, but it can lead to other complications.
The fall
And I
or the
believe-
passing
But
out.
but that's insane to me that you could be in a life or death situation and you're supposed to in the back of your head be thinking, okay, I can't get him in this hold. I guess I got to try something else. Like that's crazy to me.
Well, welcome. That's everything in our
Right?
field.
I mean, there's like a lot of split second decisions that you guys are making, and I feel like there's also parameters that are put on those decisions. So there's a lot of processing that you guys are going through in like split second decisions, which is kind of crazy.
Now, if it's life or death, pretty much anything is acceptable.
Okay.
I mean, it's supposed to be judged on, we're kind of getting off topic of the movie, but everything is supposed to be judged on reasonableness of the officer. So what that means is not, and this is where we kind of forget it in society in general, we're judging everything on what does Nate, who thinks he's a police officer, does he think that's appropriate or
I'm
not?
like a half deputy.
So
I'm
what
a half deputy like Nick has.
He's just trying to keep the chief off his back.
I'm a half deputy like Nick has half wins.
So what the standard is supposed to be is somebody with equal training and experience think that's reasonable? Does that make sense? Do you see the
Right,
difference there a
yeah.
little bit? So we judge it, unfortunately, on does society think it's acceptable? It's supposed to be based on I shouldn't say supposed to be because it still is based on with the same level of training and experience. Is
What
that
would your
how
peers think?
It's like how writers vote Hall of Fame players into the Hall of Fame. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that makes zero
Yeah.
sense. That's a good comparison.
that only one MLB player has had like 100% support from the writers in baseball. And there's some
Anyways,
that, like,
that's going to
didn't vote
give
for,
me.
like,
I'm going to
Willie
get
Mays and
myself
shit.
started on like a tangent. All right.
No, but
let's
that's
say.
any job though. I mean, if and that's the thing. I think, like you're saying, there's so many people that have seen police in movies and all the Hollywood stereotypes and stuff that it's immediately like, oh, I can have an opinion about this. Versus if you ask most anybody in their profession and you say, we're going to have somebody who doesn't do your profession, they're going to be the ones that judge your actions.
Right.
You're gonna be like, bullshit. That's stupid. Why would we allow that?
The amount of times people have said, well, just shoot the gun out of their hand. Oh my God.
What?
You know how hard that is? I mean, even my wife, I've been married 20 years, and she used to say shit all the time until very recently, like, well, I just shoot him in the eye so they don't bother me. You shoot him in the eye. It's game over. You don't just.
I don't want to kill the guy. I just want to shoot him in the eye.
I mean, that's not how it works, But the most famous is we'll just shoot him in the leg, shoot the wound.
Yeah, so they can't run away or something like that.
To even make the assumption that most cops actually use their weapons and actually shoot somebody. Like, I mean, what percentage of cops actually are ever firing at somebody?
I don't know the percentage, but it's extremely low. I've been shot at several times, but I never actually shot at anybody. So,
what percentage of cops have two guns in armpit holsters that they shoot
allowed.
like a T? So they have one upright but one sideways and just
Did you see his technique? Like, he obviously went to basic training a long time ago because he was like
the way that he like rubs them together and then like clanks them like.
Why don't all cops rub their two armpit guns together at
I have seen a guy at training one time when I was a new officer off duty and he carried two guns and I was like, whoa. That's pretty crazy.
Just in case.
Firing them both, though, the reason he does turn the one sideways is, and I read this, is
Don't
that
justify it.
they said if you were firing them both at the same time, you have the chance that the cartridge is going to fling out into your other hand and burn your hand, and you're going to drop that gun. So that's why you would fire one sideways, one.
I think. He was trying to look badass.
That's somebody that actually put a lot of thought into why he's doing it. But when we go to the range, which we go all the time, you're always standing right next to some other a-hole and he's shooting, and every damn time the brass is flying, going in your shirt, going in your face, burning you. I've never went, damn it, and threw my gun on the ground. Not one time.
That stings.
Well, not to mention that just firing two weapons at the same time, your aim is going to be just insanely.
He's not aiming at all. He's literally running and like doing the move where you like throw the gun at the target while shooting it. Yeah. This isn't a visual medium, but if you could see what I was doing right now, it's ridiculous.
He was trying to shoot the guns out of their hands.
All right, so at one point he talks about whether or not he's made for undercover, and for me, if I have to sum up the one like nagging problem for this whole movie is there anything at all undercover about like Lonzo or any of his crew? I mean, the dude.
The massive 45s underneath his armpits.
He goes back and forth between the sparkly gold chain that has the cross, but then he occasionally slaps the badge on it. Is that would we call that undercover?
So the end that part also, Nate, again, awesome that you're a half cop that you catch things like this.
I pick these things up, guys. Because I'm on.
So the one thing that you're going to do, like if you're undercover, one of the things, even in I don't work in a city like LAPD, obviously, but one thing, criminals are not dumb. They're very intelligent, and they're going to do what's called, I'm drawing a blank, but it's reverse surveillance, basically. They're going to be looking for cops and trying to identify who the undercovers are. If you're driving a way pimped out black Monte Carlo, every criminal immediately is going to go, hey, this Monte Carlo with personalized plates and hydraulics is Alonzo. And I mean, the bigger agencies actually rotate. They get cars through insurance companies and everything else, and they rotate their undercover cars quite frequently. And you never have anything that stands out like that.
Yeah,
never.
You don't want something that you're going to notice. You don't want to be on hydraulics.
Yeah.
So they don't do a whole lot of stress in the undercover side. He mentions it.
Yeah,
and
he mentions it.
The sense that I get from everyone in the movie on their relationship with Alonzo is it's clear that they know what he is. They know, and they know that he knows. They just have. You get a sense that they feel like they can't get the best of him if they want to. They hate him. Almost everyone seems like really deep down they hate this dude, but that he knows and knows how to pull all the strings, knows all the ropes, and is crooked as hell, and is, like he said, ruthless as vato. That's what they say, and the Hillside Trace crew like up there, and Sniper. So like they know who he is. You get that sense too, though.
I took it as, I think they sold it initially that it's an undercover unit, but he played it more like a gang unit, which is
it's like Vice, like gang type stuff, right?
So the gang is not really Vice. Their gang units are more like just like Alonzo did, where they know who they are.
Right.
They're actually just trying to build rapport with the gang.
They go up and talk to him. Yeah.
Right. And then knowing, whenever anything happens, they can identify the players that are involved. And they have a decent rapport, and they try to get confessions from him and everything else. And I think realistically that's more what he was. But I do think in the movie they kind of said we're an undercover unit.
They call you undercover unit, yeah.
They don't act like an undercover.
He's not undercover.
The only one that looks like he was undercover is Zed.
So
This is it.
one of my questions I had for you, Dan, is how many necklaces do you wear, and do you layer them, or do you have them outside of your shirt?
Oh, I do have. I guess I'll bring it out here, but I do wear the badge around my neck. So a lot of the officers
Connected
do
to
wear
a
that.
cross of diamonds?
I don't do that.
Okay. All right.
So one, I guess one is the answer to that.
That's kind of a gangster move, is wearing the necklace badge.
So
So you don't have to wear the suit, right?
No, I wear this. What I have on.
That's
So,
kind of badass.
when I'm on the ride along, I wear my play badge on a necklace.
Just like it says sheriff on it.
It's the one they give the kids that come into the tour of the station.
Plastic.
We get a sticker.
But I think it's legit.
I just see Nate slapping on the red light.
We give him a Nerf gun. Just hit him with that. It's like a taser, man. I promise.
Actually, I did make Dan tase me once on a ride along, but the taser.
Seriously?
Yeah.
But it
I
didn't
don't
work.
remember this.
In the face?
No, I all night from the beginning of the night, I open, I get in the car and I go, Dan, I think I want you to tase me. And he's like, you don't want me to tase you. And I was like, no, I'm serious, man. I want to see what it's like. I heard you guys have to do. He's like, yeah, what you don't want me to tase you. And I was like, yeah. I kept insisting. So the end of the night, we just leave like a domestic call, and we're because that's what we call it when we're cops, and and so we go out, and he's like, all right, this is the last stop, we're gonna head back. And one of the officers that was with him, he has his taser, and he's like, you got your taser? He's like, yeah, but it's only like 30%. He's like, perfect. He's like, tase him. So I got a jacket and a shirt on, and so I'm like, okay, tase me on the arm, and I'm prepared for this 30% taser to be like, whatever. And he tases me, and I didn't lift my arm for about an hour. It was awesome.
I don't even remember
But
that.
I'm pretty sure that's part of that. That was the last part of my training, so I think it's
Now you're official.
Oh, that's amazing. All right. Well, I mean, are we good?
yeah. I mean,
Did you tear me up? Did you ask me the questions you want to ask me?
I just the one I really wanted to. I'll ask you another one. The one I wanted to ask you was about the safety one, but the other one. So
Or do you want to do it later?
Well, let's talk about this one here. This is a good spot for this last topic.
Okay.
If I'm gonna pick on it, but I think we need to like go around, because I think there's been a lot of discussion of the things that are problems with the movies, and I want to talk about what I love too. But the last thing that I'm concerned about is really just, it's not even a cop thing as so much as it's a plot thing, which is, why do you bring in Ethan Hawke on day one? Like, so for the longest time when I saw this, I was so bothered by this, because I'm like, why would you even consider like having this guy who's a rookie? Why wouldn't you just push him off and do this thing on a different day?
So that's one of my problems with this too. Is like, this is a big day for you.
Right. Well, and some of it, so some of what I saw, so there are a couple things that like mitigated this for me. One, it's clear that I hadn't really paid attention to before, but Lonzo clearly lost his cool and beat the shit out of a Russian
That weekend.
Right. And so the timing is on him a little bit. He's got to make this move. So, but I was still a little bit like, well, why don't you just make him an excuse? I mean, you can find a way to push this guy off. But then, so today I was kind of like, okay, well, can we interpret the plot as being like, it's very important for him to have this guy to be the fall guy?
I think that's what they're going for, but I think that's a big roll of the dice by Denzel.
Like what?
Well, the fall guy for what, right?
For killing the guy, because he knows he's going to kill that guy. That's why he goes and sees him that morning, check out what's going
They
on.
could have made him the fall guy when they did, but they didn't.
Well, yeah,
They
I
had
think
no
it's
reason to
a
not
sink or
make him
swim. Either he all of a sudden is like down with the business, and they're like, he's like, fuck yeah, let's do this, and is like, let's go team go, or he kind of is what Ethan Hawke is, and then you're like, now we have a patsy.
But
Now we
he flipped the shotgun on Denzel in that room, like, and so he's gonna like, he could have easily still had his boys like take him down, or like in that moment, like he knew that Ethan wasn't the guy. He flipped the gun on him. He held the shotgun to his face on the couch, and he's like, no, this is the guy.
But if any of them shoot, then they're immediately their guns are going to be confiscated. They're going to ballistics, and they'll know who fired.
I think they're going to take Dr. Dre's Uzi.
I didn't mean.
How many Uzis do you have, Dan?
We have none.
don't have any
we have,
Uzis?
though, we have a Tommy gun. We do have a Tommy
You have
gun.
a
which is
Tommy
pretty
gun?
good.
What?
Oh
I think
my
I showed you
God.
that.
You did show me that.
So
now
we
that you say
confiscated
that.
it from somebody. And
Yeah,
then,
but you don't take it to like
No, that
house
doesn't go out.
invasions.
don't typically go
You're not
to
like,
home invasion.
I'll
I'm going to put on my
repurpose
jean
this.
jacket suit and go kill someone with this Uzi.
No, never carried it. It's actually quite heavy, the thing. I couldn't believe how heavy the damn thing was.
It's impractical, the Tommy gun. You can't take it anywhere.
I will say, though, on this, what you guys are talking about, the topic, that's actually was my favorite part of the movie. The fact
Really?
that this was pre-planned from he knew that I have one day to
all
basically
this shit.
set somebody up, a new guy, and then I'm gonna have to kill him at the end of the day because I need $1 million. And he knew where he was gonna have to pull in that $1 million. And that to me was the main story, which I really liked. Like, he had this all planned every step, and he wasn't going to kill one of his own guys because he clearly the camaraderie amongst the group was very high.
Yeah.
So he brought in a new guy with the plan to kill him by the end of the day, and he had to get his $1 million.
And
this guy had to kill Roger, and then he was going to kill this guy.
So I will say that, Nikki, I came around a little more on Dan's perspective on this round, where I was like, okay, so I see that where the like sort of twisty, and then it helps me play back into some of the earlier stuff. And I will say that the other thing I wanted to comment on that I really hated in some of the earlier watches that I liked more this time, and Dan mentioned it earlier, was there's this kind of level of like disrespect and hazing that there's a point at which it bothers me, which is namely, as I mentioned earlier, the point where like there's the gun battle and he's like, that wasn't cool, man. But prior to that, I also didn't like it. Like, I felt like, man, would you ever tolerate this shit? Like, would you smoke smoke the weed? He doesn't know it's PCP. Would you tolerate somebody, he's obviously he's a cop. He's been a cop a while. Would you tolerate somebody like treating you that way? But when I thought about it, I was like, okay, I can remember some times where like people were pretty hazy, disrespectful to me at points in my career where I tolerated it because you're in that power dynamic,
and because you want something.
You want something, yeah, exactly. And I wrote that down. I was like, it's the power of somebody wanting something and somebody having something to give. Like, and so I think this time around I thought a little more carefully, and I liked that more. So there were things about and when you think of it that way, in some ways it's a really great showcase of that. Like, Denzel is a master hot and cold manipulator, right?
I got that.
It's just like such a like he's super tough, gruff, and then he
tells him, "You're a real scrapper. You know what? You can really do this."
But it kind of
got
falls
mad
apart
squabbles.
when he says, "Oh, you got to get high because the bad guys will know you're not real unless you're high." But then they all know he's a cop anyway, so it's like they know Denzel's a cop. So why does he have to like fake it?
Yeah, they tried to sell him as undercover, but again, they're not undercover. But that was, I thought it was a really good idea. Again, I'm going to go back to where I thought this was an excellent idea when somebody sold it to the producer, and they said, "Hey, this is the movie we're going to make. Excellent idea." And then somebody went, "This doesn't work, but hopefully nobody really notices." And I don't think most people
I'm sure
notice.
that
No one
happens
noticed.
all
I
the
thought-
time. In
I thought it
Hollywood.
was awesome, just like you said, where they they set it up really nice, but I just don't think anybody would do that,
Yeah.
Especially in an hour. Inside an hour, I'm going to be like smoking weed and
This wasn't
and
part
getting
of your
in crazy
training?
shootouts,
No?
and be like, I
Dan-
guess I'm all right with it.
Dan did this exact thing to me, by the way, on my second round. So just don't listen to his bullshit. All right.
Dan, before you leave, I would be remiss not to address your knowledge of PCP. So, Sherm, Angel Dust, I'm curious.
Is it Sherm or Germ?
Sherm.
Sherm.
So,
Sherm?
Yeah. We're versed on this. So, I'm curious to know, have you had any experience with bad guys on PCP, and do they act very subdued and silly like Ethan Hawke? Because I was picturing PCP as like the crazy dudes that like get shot like 20 times and they're still coming after you, and it's like something crazy like that, because he seems like he's just really stoned and like having some weird visuals.
So I'm going to let you down a little bit. I have very little experience.
Oh my
God. It's not used much anymore. Nowadays they use meth because it's cheaper than cigarettes, but PCP, what I do know about it is it doesn't get you. Well, I think they tried to portray it a little bit where he was all sweaty. It gets you extremely hot. Usually they just get naked and
Oh, really?
crazy stuff from there.
It's the
Yeah.
naked drug.
That's when he whooped those
but it's-
crackheads' ass, though.
That's
I mean,
my alternate
he was-
ending, is just Ethan Hawke just gets really hot and gets naked. He's just there like, we're trying to kill this guy. He's like, fuck, it's hot in here, bro.
like Ricky Bobby and Talladega Nights.
That's good stuff.
I think next episode we're gonna have to have a PCP expert on because my PCP questions are not answered.
Yeah, well, Dan can do a lot for us, but not.
For some reason, I was like, this guy's a cop. He knows all about PCP. I'm gonna ask him all my PCP questions.
He's got a Tommy gun. He's got to know about PCP. Well, Lieutenant Dan, are we good?
Yeah, I'm good. Dan, you got any parting thoughts?
I don't think so. There was one question I think you had, Zach, about is everybody ripped when they?
I do have that question right here. Is all criminals insanely buffed?
So here's the thing with that, and it's actually a very good question because one thing that we do watch for is if it's a gang member or appears to be a gang member and they're yoked and in shape, we know they're probably on parole because they just came out of prison.
Right.
None of these guys go to that. What's that place called? Planet Fitness or that purple place
They're
where
not going to Planet Fitness.
Once they get out, they're getting fat and lazy again. But when they come out, and if we see them and they're in very good shape, there's a very good indicator that, oh, this guy just got out of the pen because they have nothing to do there except for work out.
Is it true that the other inmates are like the shot callers in prison force them to work out in prison?
No, it depends on the gang that you're in. So, Norteños I'm not a gang expert. I never did actually do into gangs, but certain gangs are very structured.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is they have almost like the military where they have to get up at a certain time in the morning. The Aryan Brotherhood's very strong about this, very strict about this. You have to get up. You have to work out for this amount of time.
You always have to have your boots on.
You have to have a proper diet. And I believe it's the Norteños that are very strict about this. They are very regiment. They have a hierarchy where there's a rank structure that is followed to a T. Like there is no arguing with the rank structure whatsoever. Then there's gangs that have actually split off because they don't agree with that. So we have some in our area that are the local gangs that said, hey, I don't want to deal with this. I want to just chill and do nothing in jail. So they broke off and created their own gangs. But many gangs are very, very structured. To the level of, if not more than the military, where it's very structured, but it's only inside. When they get out, it still is structured, but not as much.
All bets are off once you get out, huh? Yeah. That's crazy.
That is crazy. That's good stuff, man. That's
Dan, thank you so much for coming out, man. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, Dan has been a fan of the pod since nearly the beginning, and so it's awesome to finally have you on.
Well, you're basically like his partner.
Well,
You're his cop partner.
I considered saying that we should not. Dan and I should be available as a potential cop duo in the upcoming cop duos draft. And there may be a YouTube video out there with us in it. I don't know. So we're just, it's hard to say. I'm due for a ride along, by the way, Dan. So you expect me to bug you soon.
Christmas is around.
We're all gonna try to pack into one car. Just all five of us.
Just all five in the lieutenant's SUV. Just maybe we'll record a pod when we do it.
We're trying to get something from each judge we have. We've got a beer, and now we want to ride along too.
We're not pandering at all, though.
Oh, right.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, guys.
All right, we are moving on to shag, snag, body bag, and we want to talk about first what we want to shag, what you want to make quick, passionate, love to.
Why does it have to be quick?
One time, not quick. One time. Like one time, and then bye-bye.
Like one time, but like one of those like 12-hour sessions.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, hey.
It's like a sweaty.
It's like, hey,
dehydrated.
Quick in terms of life. You know what I mean? Like one night.
You order the pizza halfway through just to refuel. One of those. Yeah, I want that.
The Gatorade and pizza.
Shit pushed in.
Oh, by the way, that scene. I didn't bring this up.
That guy is so great.
That guy is
big time.
Wait. No. I'm gonna put the kibosh in this. Let me get to my shag.
We'll talk about it.
Let me get to my shag.
Okay.
We're gonna kick it straight to
In
Brad.
fact,
Nick.
I'm starting up right now. I'm starting up right now. My shag is Raymond Cruz.
That's awesome.
Because Raymond Cruz he's been in a lot of stuff. And I remember
Bears, baby.
I remember him first from Clear and Present Danger as Dean Chavez. He's the sniper in Clear and Present Danger, which is funny because his name's Sniper in Training Day. And of course, his probably most notorious and famous role is Tuco Salamanca from Breaking Bad.
Tight.
So he has lots of lines as Tuco, but the only one I can ever remember, but I say this in my head about 17 times a week is tight. Tight. I love it. It works in almost every situation.
his neck action. He gets so excited in this movie.
And what I wrote down was this is just him playing Tuco in a different movie. I mean, he's just exactly the same
I think
character.
Well,
That's
Training
who he
Day, he went Sniper. He brought Sniper to Tuco's role. Yeah, so I mean,
It's perfect.
but the funny thing is, I read up a little bit on him and loves the stage acting. Like he loves being on stage, like more than anything. He's like, he said, basically says, I do movies and stuff because then it gives me like the ability just to go do like stage stuff when I want to,
That's cool.
which is cool.
All right, so can I go now, Brad, or are you gonna
Yes,
want to do a second check?
you guys are about to get all up in my Raymond Chavez business. Raymond Cruz. I had to make sure Raymond Cruz was all for me.
All right.
I'm shagging that.
All right, Nate, what you got?
I'm gonna shag being a cop. I'm gonna shag it in real life, but I'm also gonna shag it in this movie. I mean, one of the things that I reflected on a little bit was just how many cop movies there are and what a genre like grabber. Like it is its own genre, right? Maybe more than any other profession I could think of. Maybe like doctor, like hospital type movies. So you're a doctor, but it was hard for me to think of any other thing other than like maybe pro athlete that even approached it. Just like being a cop is just this like movie fantasy, and it's easy to see why, right? There's some glory, there's some drama in it, there's this like lots of different ways you can play it with the corruption and different parts. I love it. I want to be it. I am partially a deputized police officer, and so I live it. But I'm gonna shag it.
So I'm going to piggyback on Nate's because we have the exact same shag, and that is wanting to be a cop. I mean, as an American male young man, I think that every little boy at some point thinks that they want to be a cop. And I think a lot of that is what Dan was saying is perpetuated by cop movies and TV shows and the way that it's portrayed on TV, which, I've had some friends that were cops that, weren't as articulate as Dan, but said a lot of things like, God, it's the most fucking boring job ever, interspersed with like little tiny moments of extreme terror, which is like a great way to describe it. I think they're just like, you just sit around and do nothing constantly. And then all of a sudden, like you're just scared out of your mind. And then, oh, okay, now you're back to normal. But so I don't think any of you guys know this about me, but at some point after I got fired from Bubba Gump's and was doing a bunch of odd jobs, I decided as a young man that I was going to be a police officer. And I went to San Jose PD and did a tour of the police station like Nate's talking about. I went to Cabrillo College and took a bunch of criminal justice classes. And I was convinced that I was going to be a cop. At some point, I'm not sure exactly what happened, but that the dream never was realized. But at some point in my life, I remember sitting down at dinner and telling my dad that I wanted to be a cop, and he was like, "Why?" And I was like, it just seems like something that's like, it's a respectable profession and something that I want to do. And he was just like, okay. And I never actually made it happen, but I did for about a year of my life. I took 2 semesters worth of classes in criminal justice, and I was convinced that I was gonna do that. So I'm gonna shag being a police officer. I think that it's super cool, and it's probably just the media or not the media, but like TV and movies telling me that it's cooler than what it actually is. But when you meet somebody like Dan and he's super articulate, super thoughtful about all of these different issues and things like that. And, we were talking off the air about a bunch of different issues and stuff like that. I really respect what these guys are doing. And I think that, there's going to be shitty people in any profession, but there's also going to be guys that really care and are really doing a good job. And it's really refreshing to see. So
well,
that's
at the heart of it, like, what are they? They're there to help others. That's at the core of what they're doing, and not just help others, but save lives, like every day, while their lives
risking their
are
lives
on the line,
100%,
possibly every day.
100%.
It doesn't get much more honorable than that outside of military, as far as I'm concerned.
My take on the police is that it's such a weird profession in the sense that most of your interactions with human beings while you're at your job is going to be people at their worst moments.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and the fact that you are having to deal with that on a constant day-to-day basis of people in their worst moments, whether it's a car accident, whether it's a suicide, whether it's a a domestic disturbance, you're always finding people on their at their worst.
And you're inserting yourself, right? Like
and that's why I think that the job's so difficult, and why I think when I hear people talk about reforming police and things like that, I understand there's a place for it, because you're asking police officers to do a lot of
They
things.
wear a lot of hats.
Right.
For sure.
And sometimes it almost seems overwhelming. And it's just,
Well,
if we could figure out ways to make it easier on them, I think it would be better for society.
I mean, it sometimes reminds me of like the way that, we think back on the Vietnam War vets returning home, right? And like there's this enormous amount of anger that, for in history, looking at it historically, probably was very well placed about the sort of United States being there and the sort of behavior of the government with respect to sort of being in Vietnam and why they were there, and a lot of people dying. But then you talk about these vets who show up and like get spit on and stuff, and there's just this enormous anger at the personnel that are part of this like big system, and by and large are there trying to do sometimes honorable things, sometimes just trying to survive, sometimes just trying to have a job, sometimes just trying to do something that is going to get them an education eventually. And you look at that, and I think about that a lot with police officers, where of course there are some rotten ones. And of course, there are police officers that, because they're within a certain system and because they have those interactions over and over again, they end up doing things at times or behaving in ways that respond to really bad incentives. And it looks like they're bad behavior. But, most cops are out there doing things for the right reasons, or at very minimum, trying to just do the job well that they're trying to do and support their families. And we have, society has a lot of, I think, sort of misplaced anger at that, rather than sort of thinking about reform as a function of creating a better system, right? And not so much like somehow we're going to change these people that are somehow rotten. It just seems like an odd leap to me. But I'm a cop, so
This is from an honorary cop. So
all right, let me wrap this thing up. So I'm just gonna make a quick shift. Mine's L.A. as a spot for a cop drama. I mean, yeah, we're all from, California here, and we made plenty of trips to LA. Yeah, have we been in a lot of these neighborhoods that the movie shows? Probably not. Been in maybe around them, but the setting that LA creates for a cop drama is arguably, one of the better. And every city has its areas that, maybe there's some more violence, or that has their reputation. And the areas that Fuqua went to, he wanted to make this as realistic as possible and true and honest as possible. He went to these parts of LA and got got permission, honestly, from local gangs to get in these parts, and they wanted it to be filmed there for that reason, to make it as honest as possible. And actually hired members from. He cast residents from South Central, Crenshaw, Firestone, Inglewood, Rampart, Echo Park, Lincoln Heights, and Imperial Courts, which, and then obviously, shot in the block of the jungle in LA, as like stated in the movie. And just so all those settings, obviously that's, what the world that, we're kind of thrown into, but LA as a scene for a cop drama, give that to me.
I love it.
I'll watch it again. All right, on to Snag, and it looks like I'm gonna lead off. And for me, what do I want to marry? What do I want to hold on tight to forever? And it's easy. One of one, Denzel.
Yeah.
Right. We talked about it earlier. He puts the movie on his back. So I just wrote a couple questions. What other actors are on par with Denzel? His IMDb is just, it's bonkers. Before, leading up to Training Day, and after. One of the greatest actors of the modern age, one of the greatest actors ever. So
can I
his
ask
character,
what did he win? What did he win an Oscar for? Did he win an Oscar for this? This was
role.
this? Okay.
So he fucks with your head in this movie, and I can't get enough of it every time I watch it. I remember the first time I did watch this movie, and he's doing these horrible things, and then he has these like father talk moments with Ethan Hawke's character right after he's put a hole in Scott Glenn's chest, and they're outside, and he just gets done telling you, if after you watch it for the third or fourth time, he says, make sure that bathtub's ready. So he's talking to the the
gangsters, the
Hillside Trace gang, his homies there, to get the bathtub ready because he's saying he's setting up the execution of Hoyt. Hoyt then gets into the car, and then Denzel's character Alonzo is able to work up tears practically, showing Hoyt that he feels for him. Like, I've been there before. It was new for me at one point. It's okay. Everyone has their freak out. He has this moment. He has these moments throughout the movie. He's just convincing. It's a man as an actor acting like he has layers, but at the heart of it, he's an evil, bad dude who just got done killing a dude in Vegas because he probably got fucked up, and he just happened to kill the wrong dude. And now he's going to kill a young rookie because he owes the Russians money. And at the heart of it, that's all he cares about. He's got 4 kids with who knows. It's not just Eva Mendes has 1 boy, and then he says he has 4 boys. In his first meeting, he tells Ethan Hawke, if you need a boy, let your old lady know. I can't miss. And I'm like, to say that shit in your first time meeting, like that shows you the character that Denzel's created. Denzel evidently, the NAACP showed up to the set while they were filming Training Day. They were not a fan of Denzel playing a crooked cop. They kind of came in asking, expressing that concern that, they're concerned about the direction that Denzel and him taking that part of a crooked cop, and didn't think it was a good look for him. And Denzel just said, well, why, all these other actors can do it. Why can't I? Why can't I take this part? And so he took his stance, and he's an artist at the end of it. He takes all different types of roles. It doesn't matter. He always makes it better. And to think of Samuel, as much as I love Sam Jackson, it's a completely different movie, and it doesn't, I think this movie is going to stand the test of time, even with all of its flaws. And it's because of Denzel. So, and the King Kong quote was all him too, by the way.
Oh, was that an ad lib?
I was all improvised by Denzel.
King Kong got nothing on me.
Who we got? Is it Nate?
It's me, and I have little to add. I mean, my Denzel was mine, and I'll literally only just follow up by reading off some of the highlights from Denzel's IMDb quickly, because it's staggering. Like that he doesn't get taught. I actually think he's underrated, even as highly rated as he is. Yeah. If you look at the range of stuff, I mean, when you first, his first really big stuff, right? Malcolm X, Pelican Brief, Philadelphia, Crimson Tide, Courage Under Fire, The Preacher's Wife, which is kind of a weird one, but a totally different role for him. He Got Game.
You skipped Glory, man.
Yeah, I was going to say Glory.
He got nominated for Glory.
Oh, I missed Glory totally. Yeah.
All before Training Day.
Yeah, Glory. That's all before Training Day. He's not. We even got. Then we get to Training Day, but then after Training Day, Man on Fire, Manchurian Candidate, Inside Man, American Gangster, The Book of Eli,
Deja Vu, bro.
Deja Vu, Flight, Equalizer, and the follow-ons. Then Fences, which I think he also gets nominated for, and then Roman J. Israel, which is a really off the beaten path movie and kind of weird, but he's so different in it. Like, if you've seen it, it's just crazy. So I mean, I guess my take is just, Denzel this might be his best. I mean, this might be his very best, and it's the best of a career that has a lot of things that are competitive for the best. He's just unreal in it.
If you watch Glory in the scene where he's getting punished for deserting, and they whip him, and then he's staring down Matthew Broderick, and he's got the tears going and stuff like that. I mean, right there, that just said this dude's going to be a badass actor, real deal. His career,
he's as close to a can't miss as there is, where it's like he's in something and you're like,
he's the definition of a can't miss.
He's gonna be great, and the movie potentially is gonna be watchable, even if it's unwatchable.
He also has somewhat of a discerning script picker or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, he's either he can make shitty material elevated, or he's really discerning on his picks.
And I think it's a combo.
Yeah,
there's
I
some
think
stuff
you're right.
that's not, the scripts aren't in the end great, but they elevate.
I just want to jump in really quick on your guys' Denzel points. Is that my wife was watching a video the other day, and it was Chadwick Boseman, the guy from Black Panther, and he was doing this speech talking about how he was really grateful to Denzel because Denzel had paid his college tuition all through college and acting school and all this stuff. And I guess that's something that he does, is he goes in and finds young black actors and actresses and kind of empowers them and financially supports them and kind of, to kind of bring them up through the system, which I think is just fucking awesome.
R.I.P. Chadwick.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, my snag here is, you know what? There's something about when a movie starts off with no music and you get a little intro scene that kind of gets you going, and then all of a sudden, boom, they hit you with a hit song. And Training Day does this just to a T. Like, you have the whole dining scene. As soon as they leave the diner, still DRE comes in, and that Dre beat starts, and
That's
it's
a
just
great
like,
call.
boom, it hits, and you're like, okay, I'm ready for this fucking ride. Like, they had a nice little intro, about 8 minutes or so.
That's where I start to enjoy the movie, is when he fucking hits the hydros and they
and there
they
you
take
go.
off.
You know you're off on an adventure now, and I just love movies that do that. Where it's all quiet for a while, no music, and then all of a sudden you're gonna just bring in that nice song that just kind of
That
like
piano,
starts
that
it.
piano, that is like one of my favorites.
Reminds me a little bit like a Back to the Future opening, right? Where there's like a little bit of that sort of like sleepy beginning with the clocks and things, and then all of a sudden just
He plays the guitar, and then all of a sudden he's off to work, and then you get the Huey Lewis.
Huey Lewis comes in.
Yep, for
Don't
sure.
need no credit cards. Dude, I fucking love that
Brad,
shit.
that's a great freaking choice, dude. Because I love that, how that gets us into the movie. And like the car's wet, so like they're, you know, in like downtown LA,
Car
like
smoking
there's
PCP.
they're spraying.
He made his car before he gets there. Oh, you
That's
got
why alternate
smoke a little
endings.
bit.
That's
I
an
didn't know
alternate
you'd like
ending.
to
This
get
is
wet
a
like
Cars.
that.
It's a Pixar. This is a Pixar. This is a Pixar.
Lightning
Not
McQueen,
them.
Lightning McQueen on Sherm.
PCP car.
Ciao.
Oh shit.
Okay.
Wow.
On that note,
So my snag is really quick, and it's just I love the ethical dilemmas that this movie puts all of its main characters in. You know, I don't love Ethan Hawke in this movie, but I think that like at certain points you can kind of see in his brain he's kind of like, am I going to go along with this? Am I not going to go along with this? I like movies that put you in a position where you're like, it's kind of like what Nate was saying earlier, where you've had a mentor or somebody that was pushing you in maybe a way that you probably wouldn't have responded to well, but you're kind of deciding in your head whether or not what you're gonna do, how you're gonna react. And I feel like this movie, you know, makes you ask a lot of questions to yourself, like how you would react in a lot of situations that Ethan Hawke finds himself in, and even Denzel, like, you know, he's kind of got you know, a bunch of dilemmas on his hand too. So I like that. I like the way that it kind of puts you in his shoes for a minute, and if you're watching it with a thoughtful eye, you kind of think like, oh man, I wonder what I would do in that situation. I love that.
Good stuff. Zach, I think I'm going to jump in here on Body Bag now because we might have mind melded earlier and figured it out because, you know what, as much as I just gave props to a Dre song coming in at the opening scene, when Andre shows up as an actor, it is just not good.
It takes you out.
It really, like, it's uncomfortable, like how stiff his line present. Like, you'd think he would have like a relaxed, like he just seems so stiff. Like he seems like he's so nervous of doing this correctly that he just completely like fucks it up. Because Macy Gray kills it in this movie. Snoop does a great job in his role.
Snoop is great in
is
this.
awesome.
And Dre just seems stiff as fuck, and it's just really like bothersome. Like they had to have been looking at that in the editing room, like, oh shit, is this the best take we got? And just throw it in there.
So I agree, Brad. I think Snoop's okay. I think that Macy Gray kills it, and I didn't even recognize her until my wife was like, "That's Macy Gray," and I was like, "Oh shit, it is!" And she's fucking throwing, as they say on rewatchables, like throwing 104 miles an hour or whatever the fuck they say.
Yeah, for sure.
She's killing it. But Dre takes me out of the movie completely. He has like inhumanly long arms for some reason. He has an Uzi. I don't understand why he has an Uzi. Like we talked to Dan about, like, when do you? I don't understand where you're like, oh, we're gonna go do this like police work, and then I'm gonna take my Uzi that's attached to my body. I don't understand any of that. He's like super wooden in everything that he's doing.
Even his line when he's like, "You're dead, you're dead," and like, I'm just like,
You're fucking dead.
it's like, okay, man, I'm not believing this at all. You don't. I don't know.
And you know what kills me is that when Nick told me that Eminem was in the running to play the Ethan Hawke part, it was like, okay, so we're just gonna have like all rappers in this movie, And God, it would have just been terrible. Even though Nate thinks that Eminem can do no wrong, and we're trying to get him to do our BVK IPA song, I don't like it, man. I wish we would hire. There's plenty of actors out there looking for work. We could hire some actors to do these parts. And it's not like people went and saw this movie because they're like, oh, did you hear Dr. Dre was in it? There's zero chance of that.
And I mean, you can see that, like, obviously Antoine Fuqua, like, continually paid it forward with Denzel and continued to, I mean, that was his dude. That was his golden goose. I mean, honestly.
I'm sure these guys were like producers on the movie or something, and they just wanted to be in the movie, but I don't like it at all. That's my body bag. And Brad's body bag.
Yep.
Okay, so you guys talked me into it. I don't know, I mean, why that wasn't glaring to me. I just wrote down like some unrealistic shit because I knew that, you know, it all happens in a day, but I'm behind you guys on Dre. He never took me completely out of it, but he's for sure the weakest part of the whole movie. I'll take that.
Yeah, I'll body bag the scene I already talked about. I mean, it was the most bothersome for the whole thing for me. It was the moment where like they went beyond the pale for a minute and like they do the shootout and Ethan Hawke's. It's not cool, man. I was like, this is okay. Now we've
Didn't he freak out a little more than that?
To be fair, he was high on PCP, so it was just like, did that really happen, bro?
But
Is that the part when they pulled over on the freeway and he says, "You either the wolf or the sheep"?
I don't think they pull over on the freeway.
Because there's like one time when they pull over.
That's when they're like they pull over in the middle of the
freeway.
Street.
No, in the middle of the
The
intersection.
freeway is the post. I think is the post shootout.
That's what I thought, because he freaks out a little. I mean, he freaks out.
Yeah,
and he's like saying stuff like the department's gonna like have our balls. It's like they're coming after people like that, and then he pulls over, and that's when Denzel gives him like a pep talk and says, "Listen, this shit ain't for you."
That was way back in like season 3, so I don't remember.
Yeah, that's cool.
Watched that shit
I
2
watched
days
that,
ago.
like,
I'm just saying, you want to talk
like
it out. This was the time to talk it out.
I think it's that there were like enough things before that I was like, at that point, he's got to be like, I got to bail.
I'm staying here in Watts. You go ahead and go in the Monte Carlo. I'll be fine.
Let me out on the freeway.
I'll be fine.
I just want to address one thing that I just thought of is that Nate's like, I just finished the movie 15 minutes ago, but 2 days ago was like, I'm watching The Transporter right now and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, why aren't you watching Training Day, dude? Like, what the fuck?
I have reasons.
What were the reasons for? Oh, because your wife loves Jason Statham.
No,
she wasn't even there.
That would have been a good one. No, it was because if I'm working out on this particular workout machine, it's too loud for me to hear dialogue, and I've got to pick something that I don't give a shit about what they're saying, and The Transporter fit the bill.
Just Statham's just all visual.
I was like, I could just check me some Jason Statham.
Kicking ass.
Visual
See him
media.
whoop some ass and drive a car fast. That's all I need.
You at least could have put on what was it, Crank, with Amy Smart,
Oh,
Jason Statham.
I don't know Crank. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Oh, that one.
It's a great movie where he has to continually do meth in order not to die because
Well, not
he has
meth.
to keep his heart rate.
He has to be doing adrenaline.
It's
like
PCP. It's PCP.
Oh, it's
He has to
PCP.
do
I'm
the
sorry.
entire-
Yeah.
he has to be doing adrenaline, so he has to do crazy shit the entire movie to keep his
Yeah.
heart rate going.
Yeah.
Well, on my next workout, I know what I'm watching.
It's an awesome premise. That delivers. Not really.
All right, on to our unofficial sponsor segment, our Cameo segment. Brad's going to lead us off here.
Hey, yeah, Cameo, I'll just tell you, man, last call, they've locked in, so we're still waiting to hear from you. If you want to get locked in here, we've been struggling with a Cameo lately, so...
We've been known to give away 11 years of free advertising.
They must just be sending emails to our personal emails, and we're just not checking it.
Yeah, it's
So-
Bev's Video Kingdom at gmail.com.
Right, Bevs, BEVS.
There's no apostrophe in that.
If you put an apostrophe in it, even if you spell Jamel right, we're not going to get it.
All right, so Cameo. First off, Macy Gray. She used to be on it, but They don't give a price when they used to be. So I'm assuming Macy probably would have been $100 plus.
I'm gonna say
What's Macy Gray's song?
Several hundred?
for Macy Gray.
Dude, she's a big star,
Dude,
bro.
she was like a legit.
Is she the I try to say goodbye and I choke?
Yes.
Try to walk away and I stumble?
I try to rock away and I stumble.
Oh God, I love it when we break out in song.
But the one king of Cameo right now, and he's actually advertising a concert on Cameo. You can buy front row tickets and you will be seen by this person. That is, of course, Snoop Dogg.
Really?
Snoop-a-Doop
Now,
was on.
the problem is that I don't know, these concert tickets are blocking like where normally it would say like how much he costs. So I don't get to know how much he costs. But he definitely said, if you want any type of promotion, use my business price. So he's very adamant that the business price is like, if we wanted Snoop to be like, hey, yo, check out the BVK podcast or whatever.
Why would we do it if you can do that good
Yeah,
a voice?
that was a really good.
We would just have you do it.
Yeah, so if you want the Snoop Dogg imitator on Cameo, you can pay him some candy that's in that bowl right there. But yeah, I
Are
don't
we
know.
going to guess the price for Snoop?
Oh man, I'm yeah.
Are we guessing
Do
the
we have a
business
price? Do
price?
you have
or
a
are we
price?
guessing-
No, I don't have the price. That's let me check it out. Let me check it one more time.
Are we guessing the
Fine,
business
we'll
price or
just
are we guessing
guess.
Refresh
Well,
that
who was
shit.
$5,000 for business price? So who,
the
that was
somebody not that awesome?
right.
That was the guy Champ. That was whammy. He
Oh,
was
yeah.
5 G's, I'm pretty sure.
So Snoop-a-Doop's got to be 10 G's for a business price at least.
I think the business price is probably a flat rate. If I had to guess.
No
way.
You don't think so?
No.
Champ's not making as much as Snoop.
Yes. Okay. They're advertising this concert, so it's in the way. So $50 to be on the concert, $500 to be a VIP for this concert. Other than that, it sounds like it doesn't say that he's not on Cameo, but it just doesn't show me how much.
What happens if you're VIP for a Zoom concert? Do you get like front row Zoom seats? I don't understand.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
sit
checked
really
it out
close to the
because it is
camera.
kind of funny. Here's what you get for the $500. You get front row access to a live stream event with the chance to go on stage.
What?
All front row fans will get a chance to ask one question. Snoop Dogg will be able to see you and interact directly using live stream, and you can do custom reactions and chat with other fans.
And they each pay $500?
It's $500.
I'm in.
Ask Snoop a question.
I'm in.
But yeah, so other than that, I can't find out how much he actually costs.
What would you ask Snoop if you could ask Snoop one question?
God, put me on the spot. Why don't you?
I would be like, how much do you weigh? Because he literally, I think he's a pretty tall guy, and he is so skinny. He looks like he's like 6'2", like 104 pounds.
I saw him in an airport one time.
Did you?
Oh, did you?
I did not know that.
Like walking away from me with a couple bodyguards. A little taller than I thought.
Yeah, he's
and
tall.
Super skinny.
I feel like if Johnny
Very
from Karate
skinny.
Kid swept his leg, it would fucking shatter.
Sweep the leg.
Yeah, shit was-
I would ask
Snoop the
Snoop,
leg,
have you
Johnny.
ever turned down a cameo on a song? Because like that dude is basically on every other song that I hear right now. Like it's just there'll
Oh,
always be
you
a
mean
Snoop
not on
verse.
Cameo, the website?
No, I don't mean Cameo on the website. I mean like when he has an appearance on a song, like there's always a Snoop verse on like every song now.
I like that he's on Corona, right? He's
Yep, he's doing Corona.
like
No, Snoop's doing big things.
Hey, Snoop, if you can say anything about Snoop, that dude is working.
Yep.
He
Oh,
is
yeah.
out there
Always.
making that cheddar.
Yes, he is. So yeah, I'm saying Snoop probably on Cameo is probably $400.
Yeah, that's fair.
Maybe 500.
Yeah, I think it's got to be in that range.
Yeah, right around that
It
Brett
ain't
Favre
cheap.
money.
And I might pay it. I'm just going to be honest.
And I will
to get Snoop?
say
Snoop. Yeah.
there was a little internet sensation I think the last couple weeks. I don't know if you guys have heard the Island Boys.
Yes.
So these Florida dudes that
Some embarrassing
are just
shit.
absolutely ridiculous, but they are new on Cameo.
What's Island Boys going to run me?
$165.
Whoa! Ayo.
And if you heard what they sound like when they sing, it, you would say it's worth every dollar.
It's so ridiculous. They have like, if you guys have ever watched the Titans, they have like the turd braid that comes out of Derrick Henry's helmet. I don't know if you guys have seen
Yes,
this
I've-
on football. They have those coming out of their head in like numerous different directions.
Yeah, like 5 different directions.
5
from
different
their head.
turd braids. It's
And they're
amazing.
about as tatted up as you can be. And then they sing, Island Boy. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba.
Lots of face tats.
Oh, they are a thing. But yeah, they're on Cameo now.
I'm so glad that my kids are young enough they're missing the face tat thing. Like your kid is just 14, so he's like probably just young enough that he's not going to have to get a face tat when he turns 18. But I feel like there's a whole generation of kids there's going to be like a bunch of 80-year-old dudes at some point with face tats, and it's just not going to be a great look.
I'm going to try to avoid one at my midlife crisis. But no promises.
Nate's like, I'm going to get a tattoo on my forehead.
I'm going to get a tattoo.
They don't allow that in the force, yo.
I was just going to tattoo my shield.
I already,
Just your
I already
entire
have my
face is your
my
shield?
artist is already designing the BVK under the eye. Right
And
there.
then IPA on the under the right, just right eye.
I'm going to get tiny teardrops that are actually sheriff's badges.
All right, Cameo. God damn it, step up your game.
Yeah, Cameo.
Come and be an official sponsor, and we'll try and harder to find people that are on your fucking website.
We're gonna try Farter. All right, let's just move on to streaming recommendations. Let's get into what else.
Speaking of farting, since we're here, fuck it.
We are here and we are farting.
So I
mean, we've talked about your ass on this podcast enough. So
I was at work the other day.
any story related to farting that starts with "I was at work the other day."
So I was at work.
That's a good one.
So I was at work, and there's this guy at work that I have had some run-ins with over work things, but let's just say he maybe is a little sensitive.
These are not flatulence-based arguments.
No, the arguments themselves are not. So I was sitting in my office, and my door was open, and this guy was walking down the hall. And then he passed my door, and just as he passed my door, he sort of slowed down and then like audibly ripped a fart.
That's a fucking...
And kept walking, and I was
act of
like,
aggression,
and I wondered, like, did he do this on purpose?
He marked you.
And B, like, is that like, should I challenge him to a fight in the courtyard?
I'm surprised you didn't run out there and knock him out. Like,
well, this is what my wife said. She's like, dude, did you take this as a sign of like a serious point of aggression? And I was like, I didn't know. Like normally, like if I feel disrespected, as we know, like I lose my mind and like I try to kill people. But here I was like, and this guy, I feel like he's sort of harmless because he's just sort of like a caricature of a human. And so I was like, well, you are who you are. But I was like, man, you farted at me, but you didn't come into my office. So, like, did that really violate me? I don't know. How should I? Do you guys feel like I should have gone and confronted him?
I don't think you should have confronted him, but I would have felt very violated. But
should I farted back at him?
He's definitely telling his friends right now. He's like, this guy Nate at work, he's so beta. I fucking farted at him. He did nothing. I guarantee you that's a story that he's
makes
telling.
me want to fight him.
he's like, man, I looked him directly in the eyes and lifted my leg and just farted at him, and he did nothing.
Didn't even do anything. What a puss.
Obviously slowed down my walking speed in front of his doorway.
Just lifted the leg and let it go. Anyway, so yeah, that's my fart story.
Damn it, that pisses me off just hearing it.
Nick's going to show up at work on Monday.
I need something to distract me from how upset I am about Nate getting farted at. What can we stream, Nick? What are we going to fucking stream not to think about this fucking act of aggression that happened in Nate's workplace?
All right, I got Collateral on HBO Max.
Ooh.
2004 Michael Mann classic. I'm a big fan of this movie. You got Tom Cruise, all 5'2" of them.
Tom
Jamie
Cruise with
Foxx.
gray hair.
Gray hair. The only time flat-topped, gray-haired Tom Cruise, Jamie Foxx, Jada Pinkett Smith, Mark Ruffalo. Another LA movie. Also takes place during the course of a night, so even less time than Training Day, but still lets you know early that a night's going to take place. The movie's going to start and end during the course of this night. I don't know. I'm a huge fan of Collateral, and it's one of my favorite Tom Cruise movies. I think when I saw it, I was so blown away that it made me like Tom Cruise, and this was after the jumping on the couch Scientologist shit, way after. And
After he ruined Katie Holmes for everyone.
Dude, and like you were like done. Like I was done with him, and it was hard to look at him the same way, but you still, he was still cranking out movies. But damn it, he comes out with Collateral and he's a silver-haired, flat-topped assassin in a fucking Michael Mann picture. And it was like under the radar. It wasn't like overly publicized. It was a fucking cool movie.
And he's the bad guy. He's the bad guy, which is a surprise.
He doesn't ever do that. And so I was like,
he's a great bad guy. I mean, he's like a really like kind of understated bad guy.
Yes,
in the best way.
Not over the top. And it's just like,
Jamie Foxx is amazing.
He's amazing, but without Tom Cruise in that part, he's just. And
Jamie Foxx, if I remember right, is kind of nerdy, right?
Like he's super nerdy, kind of
They're both kind of playing out of type, which is awesome.
It's a great. It is a super underrated movie. That's a great call.
So that's what I got.
So I'm going to pull a Brad here, and I'm going to recommend something that is streaming only if you have the Super Premium Stars subscription, and that is End of Watch, which is Gyllenhaal and Michael Pena, both L.A. cops. Very similar setting, has a lot of similar feel to Training Day.
We might need to cover this movie.
It's definitely
it's very good.
It's on.
It's
my
one
list.
that would come, and it's got like it's got a lot of really good sort of feels authentic kind of. I would have loved to get Dan's take on this, but it feels really authentic.
He said he loved it.
Yeah, he
mentioned that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So anyway, this is
in the future.
This is a great one that I highly recommend, especially if you like Training Day. It's slightly less Denzel-y, but a little more believable.
So I've got two. One is a movie, which is Dragged Across Concrete, which is Mel Gibson
I've
and
never heard
Vince
of this.
Vaughn. It's so good.
What?
Mel Gibson, Vince Vaughn. It's directed by, it's directed by the same guy that did Bone Tomahawk.
Oh.
And it's
that guy.
It's very fucking good. Check it out. Pretty dark, fucking awesome. And the second one is the same thing that we literally mention almost every pod, and that is True Detective season
As
1.
we should.
True
Just
Detective
go watch
season 1
it.
it will never not be mentioned.
I know that all
while
of you haven't watched it yet, so go fucking watch it.
If you're looking forward to our next, never mind. I can't say it right now.
As much as you guys like a True Detective season 1, and I enjoyed it, I will say my recommendation is directly related to Training Day in the sense that when Sean Ryan created it, there was definitely some takeaways from the Rampart case with LAPD, and that's The Shield. It is streaming on Hulu, and The Shield is a great gritty cop drama. Again, you get those alpha male cops that also get on the shady side, and so it's a lot of fun. It's intense all the way through. When you get to that final season, the payoff is just amazing.
I'm surprised it took us this long, Brad, to get to a Shield take, because I thought I wrote down in my notes there's a very real chance that this pod early on could get turned into just a Shield pod by Brad and I.
I mean, I could go off on it just because
The
it
two
is
of
my
us
favorite TV show of all time.
I mean, the two of us should just do like a Shield pod just as like a one-off because we love it so much.
And that's the thing, is I think it's just an underrated show that a lot of people never watch. So it upsets me so much that people talk about.
And the funny thing is, it won it won a bunch of stuff. I mean, it was very highly acclaimed at the time.
It was. I think its last season didn't get enough acclaim, but the fact that you have the Breaking Bad, The Wire, Sopranos, all of those are talked about in the same like conversation. The Shield needs to be up there. It's just
Totally
a lot of people
agree.
have not seen it because it's a classic.
I think the first time I could be remembering this wrong, but the first time I came to Nate's house, I think he was dressed as Michael Chiklis.
Vic Mackey. He did
think
dress up
so.
for Halloween. He was dressed up for
One
Halloween.
of the first times that I came to your house, I knew you and we knew each other and we were friends sort of. But I think the first time I ever came here, you were dressed as Michael
That was like
Chiklis.
2010 or 11.
That would have been a long time ago. I don't know.
That's like 10 years ago, 11 years ago.
And it was like before, like years before we were ever actually like really friends.
Oh, I do not remember this.
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
why were you at my house.
I was with Justin or something. And
okay.
we were doing something.
Oh,
but-
I sort of remember
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know why I was Michael Chiklis that night, but hey, whatever.
Why
Sometimes I
the
just
fuck were
dress
you
up.
at my house?
I was a ninja that year, and we have a picture of Nate as Vic Mackey. He's got like a gun up at me, and I have like a sword, and I'm sitting there like we're staring each other down.
A lot of stuff that probably wouldn't. We probably don't want it to come out of the vault.
The Halloween party nights? No, probably
Who
not.
knows?
Brad in full Asian face.
Me in full Mackie face. I fully. I admit that I appropriate the full culture of the dirty LAPD. So
Yes, he
whatever
does.
that's worth.
All right.
Are we good with streaming?
Synchronized.
We're streaming. We're done streaming.
We're done streaming. All right, we're done streaming. We're out of the Peacock and the Shamalama Ding Dong streaming services. Let's get into reshelf. So we're walking through Bev's Video Kingdom. We're looking at drama. We're looking at horror. No, we're not. We're going to horror movie. Fuck horror. Comedy, drama. Do we want to reshelf Training Day as any one of those? Take it away from the drama, cop drama, or do we want to give Training Day an alternate ending?
I'm going to go first. So
Zach's going to go
So
first.
this is my take. I love this movie. I like this movie a lot, but I think if Tarantino directs this movie, it goes in a different direction, and there's a certain point that it goes in a different direction. And Nick's making a face like he also had Tarantino directing this movie.
No, it's good. No, it's like I
So-
love it. I love it.
So this is where it goes. Same movie. Ethan Hawke actually gets killed in the bathtub. Now, we find out sometime before
Does
that.
the guy say, "Oh, I just shot Hoyt in the face"?
He's just like, oh shit. Smiley. He's like, two bears. So
That's some crazy ass shit, Holmes.
Smiley shoots Ethan Hawke, and then they find the wallet. and they call the niece, and the niece comes over to the house, and the niece is talking to him, and somehow this is where it gets sort of convoluted, but somehow they make us believe earlier that Ethan Hawke's beautiful Latina wife, and the only way we know that she's like, my wife said, she's a beautiful blue-eyed Latina, and the only reason you know she's Latina in the very beginning is because she has all of the candles everywhere, all over the house, and so
that's right.
So what I'm thinking is somehow the wife is related to the niece, right? So the niece comes back, sees that the guy that saved her from getting raped is killed. She calls the wife. The wife comes back over. They then start this huge, like Tarantino-esque, like beautiful Latina revenge movie where the niece and the mom and Lisa, the Ethan Hawke's wife, have to go and battle against Alonzo and his beautiful Latina wife, who is like the bad guy Latina wife, Eva Mendes.
I'm in,
right?
I'm in, and
there's lots of like monologues and like prolonged foot shots. And I just think it could be a rip roaring ride, and that's where I'm going.
I want to see those feet.
for this.
I had it all written out, but I just ad-libbed it because what I had written down was like super granule. So I'm going to bigger picture.
I like it in granules.
Yeah,
So
Latina fights.
Bradley,
I got an alternate ending here, and it's basically the same movie leading up to when Roger's killed. But then when they get outside, the speech Alonzo gives is actually true. He doesn't make the call about the bathtub. He gives that speech, and it's actually heartfelt. And he convinces Jake that he only needs to get the money to right or wrong from Vegas. And then they're going to move forward. They're actually going to do some good narcotics work, take down the big fishes. Because I just want Alonzo to be a good guy who works in the gray area rather than a bad guy. Like there's something about when he's being that leader, and you're just like, God, I want to follow that guy anywhere. Like when he gets into that mode, he kind of just controls what's going on. And so I want him to use that for good rather than for evil. And that's kind of the way the movie would go.
I love that take though. Generally, that like you do get sucked in even to this guy who's just such an asshole, but you find yourself sort of wanting, not quite root for him, but being like, oh man, there's just that charisma or something. Yeah, I get that.
the first time you're watching it, right? You're like, no, he didn't leave him there to get whacked. No,
Yeah.
no way. No, but I love that take. I didn't even think about that. So since our Pulp Fiction pod, I'm taking this whole like alternate universe cross, universes together, and I got another one for us. Okay, so the timing of this, I think, might work out. I even looked up the divisions. They don't. Okay. So Jake Hoyt played strong safety for North Hollywood High.
Oh, I love it.
I tried to see if Ricky Baker from Boys in the Hood, who played for Crenshaw High, if they played in the same league. They do not play in the same league, but they could have played each other in the playoffs. Oh. So there's a movie in which Roger, Scott Glenn, is part of a basically underground high school football betting ring. Because, of course, he said he follows only the good players, right? He knew he knew Jake Hoyt was a strong safety for North Hollywood High. He follows only the good players. So he would have known of Ricky Baker. Boys in the Hood was filmed in 1991. And that time does kind of check out as far as 2001, 10 years after high school, Jake Hoyt, Ricky Baker. So Roger kind of comes to Jake Hoyt. This is a movie where Ricky Baker and a young Jake Hoyt are in high school. Roger is an ex-police officer, crooked, starting this underground high school football betting ring. He takes on these good players and he tries to corrupt them.
Trying to get him to throw games.
Tries to throw games.
Oh, wow.
Tries to get him to throw games. And Jake Hoyt and Ricky Baker, being great young men, they do not take him up. And as a sign, and obviously Roger takes that as a sign of disrespect, and he's dug in tight to the dark underbelly. And as a way to kind of show everyone else and all the young, up and coming players, like, don't fuck with Roger. He puts a hit out on Ricky. And that's why Ricky gets it.
Oh, that's why he gets it?
That's why he gets it, is because Roger.
In Boys in the Hood.
Oh, that's Roger.
God. You just blew our whole minds.
I like how it's all connected, Nick.
So can I suggest can I get into your universe?
Since we're making this movie, obviously.
Can I also nominate Ray Merriman and Nick Big Nick O'Brien from The Den of Thieves, who also are in the corrupt cop world and gangster world, and also are reputedly very highly touted LA
High-level athletes.
county football players.
Do we need to slowly, as we build this pod, create an all-star football team of players that could have
sounds
played with each other during?
I think at some point
the
we're going
early
to need to
90s?
put together the all LA County,
early
LA
90s.
County thugs versus cops
I
memorial football game.
I think we'd be remiss not to mention one of the original podcasters, Adam Carolla, who famously played line at North Hollywood High.
Really?
If you guys ever
really?
listen to, I used to listen to his podcast a long time ago, and he talks at length a lot about his time playing football at North Hollywood High.
I think I saw he just signed to Ben Shapiro's
Oh no, he's
Radio network.
gone super right wing, and however you feel about that, but he had some really funny stuff a long time ago, and he has some great stuff about playing football at North Hollywood High.
I would have loved to have seen Ricky Baker and Hoyt go head up. I think my guess is Ricky Baker gets the best of
you
both.
don't
Jake.
think Hoyt comes up and just stuffs him in the hole?
No.
140-pound
I think-
Jake Hoyt.
I don't think young Jake Hoyt knows what he's getting into with a USC bound Ricky Baker.
I will quote our friend Seth, who played high school football and played safety, and is also probably 160 pounds soaking wet. And he said, "I played free safety, and I never tackled anyone." He said, "I stood there and got decleated every time." He's like, someone, a running back or whoever it was, would break through the line, and I would be the last guy there. I wasn't trying to tackle him. He's like, I'd just stand in their way, and they would just absolutely destroy me, and I would try and hold on as tight as I could.
Seth said that?
That's what he told
That's
me.
what he said.
He told me that. That's a true story. We'll ask him about that.
There was the safety that was a year ahead of us. He was also a great baseball player, but he played safety again, skinny, small, like skinny, kind of tall, but really skinny, not that big. And he used to truck. I mean, he used to come up and put hits on people.
Who are you talking about?
I'll say off the air. And then they actually went up against a kid from Escalon, little running back named Max Scherkamp, who was a tiny little running back. And one time he came up to hit Max Scherkamp, and Max Scherkamp just trucked him. And it was bad, and it was just like, oh, man. And you just didn't see that safety get hit like that. But he got hit by like the smallest running back in the league, but this guy was just a little beast.
Some safeties end up being
Badass wrestler.
some of the craziest. I've known some safeties being some of the craziest, toughest players pound for pound on the field.
And
Because they literally come full speed. If they're that in mind, they come full speed into piles, into whoever's coming at them. It doesn't matter what the size. I've seen that from high school kids.
And I'll say one more thing about our friend Seth that played safety. He broke the single season interception record, and whose record did he break, Nick?
And that's where we break, right? We break this. I don't know, Papa, old daddy over here. My dad. That's my dad's record.
He broke Nick's dad's record,
Like decades-old.
Like
several decades old.
like 40 years after Nick's dad set the record. Seth broke the record.
that, yeah.
Fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Good stuff.
And that's where we should end this podcast.
No, but that's good stuff. Was there any more? We're good on.
I love this. Is a great one. I thought Lieutenant Dan was amazing. I thought he was great. He's a great cop. He's a great friend. He's a great podcaster. It turns out we got to have him back.
Well, he'll be back for to judge the draft. So
I love having all these special guests. Are awesome.
Yeah.
They, the conversations and the stories, and we're good audio, but they help us out. They make us better for sure. And hey, out there, usually it's Brad and Nate, and throwing out the what is it? Click and subscribe, and on the socials. Like us on Facebook, Instagram. We got a website, and what else?
If you guys send us an email saying that you want some stickers and put your address in it, you will get some stickers in the mail. I guarantee you that shit.
We have stickers. We got to figure out a program here. Keep an eye on our social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Follow that, and then we're going to put out a call for people that want stickers.
If you guys are anything like my 5-year-old daughter, you'll just do anything for a pack of stickers.
Our daughters are the same.
Let's go.
Tell a friend too. Tell your friends who you think would like us to follow along. Pick their favorite episode, listen along. we're doing this for fun, and we get excited every time we see more listeners coming on. So just share it around if you like it. It's cool for us, and we're glad you guys are out there listening.
And Thursday we got coming up. We got the draft. So hang out, see who's going to try and take the belt from my last victory. Thursday we got the draft for most memorable cop duo. We'll see if Zach can get out of the doghouse.
And Lieutenant Dan's back as a special draft judge there, so you get more of Lieutenant Dan.
But
right,
thank you guys for being
All right,
here.
boys. It's bedtime. Nate's been yawning for about an hour.
Later.
Yeah, it's past my bedtime.
Nate, just think about Code 3, sirens.
I wanna be at Beverly's, bringing me home with my movies. Just a blind by, no reason why. I love this scene. Nick Nate, Zach, and Brad, your favorite podcast. Let's start